Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Communications Master Call. I'm Karen Sachs, and we are going to rock it today with AI and communications. So, Vicky, I know that you use your chat for Content Machine and Business Advisor, but what about other things? Do you use it for email or letters?
No.
No, I
If
don't
if
either.
I use it appropriately, prior to everything we do, I was a copywriter, that's how I made my living, I did a lot of copy, and I wrote a lot of books, and one of the most important things about, um, writing is that I use AI for really hard things, but the other stuff I just do myself, especially if
Exactly.
it's a little email.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, people use AI for everything. There are some people who do every email that way. They script what they're going to say through
Mm,
AI,
mm.
letters, etc. Um, an example of that is I have been working with Toastmasters to interview some people for the upcoming elections. And the two people last night that I interviewed, they did their they get a 2-minute close at the end to, wrap it
Mhm.
up and leave us with a final impression. And both of them read their close. Now, these are Toastmasters. I expect better from you.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's where it has how far we have fallen. And that's part of the problem with spoken communication because AI, it doesn't read a room. It can't tell the emotions. It doesn't see the micro expressions, but people do, or at least they should. So that creates a gap between written communication and
Yeah.
spoken communication that's even bigger these days than it used to be because AI is perfect. It's well structured. There are no filler words. It doesn't ramble. It just goes on effectively. And so when we read these things, when we write this way, people have come to expect perfection. And whether you use AI or not, human beings are not perfect. So it really is an interesting opportunity to improve your communications and stand out in a bigger way. So, one of the things that we need to look at is what can we be doing to improve our communications? And first and foremost, don't read notes. You don't have to read notes. You need to be really aware of the emotions that are in the room. You need to read them. Pause before you start speaking to get your thoughts together. And then you want to do the 4 steps where you have a beginning, a middle, an end, and you stop. Because if you don't take that pause and you don't plan to say, "We need to reduce the budget by 8% because it's costing us more money," and stop. So by doing those things, we're really making our spoken word more human and less weak. The other place that AI comes in communications is that people will use AI consultants to help them speak better. And AI consultants are fantastic. There are a couple of programs. There's Yodel, and there's one that starts with a P.
That helps them, like, write a script that like
That helps them speak better. And what it does is you actually record an audio into the AI. Good morning, Dee Dee.
Good morning.
We're talking about AI consultants where you speak into you give it an audio recording or you speak live into it and it rates you and tells you how to improve your speaking. So
Holy
those
smoke, I didn't know that existed.
yes, yes, Yodel is the most popular one, and I can't remember the name of the others, I'm afraid. But, it the problem is it's a machine, it's not a person. So it will count your filler words. It will count how many times you pause. And sometimes pauses are planned. You know, you want to make a point, so you pause, but it counts that as a pause. And it can also look at your grammar. What it can't do is help you understand where those pauses are real and intended. It can't help with the emotion behind this. And most people use it in preparation for speeches. They don't they don't do it to improve their everyday conversation. But it doesn't register the emotion that you're speaking about. It doesn't measure changing the room, or when the room changes, changing your energy to mirror the room. So it's a great tool if you want to count your filler words. But in terms of real mentorship in your communications, you really need a human. Yes, Vic.
This is an interesting conversation for me, and I'm wondering because if we constantly are outsourcing our personal skill sets to AI and it is constantly trying to improve us, aren't we learning to distrust ourselves? And the question I really have is what is going to atrophy as we outsource our skill sets to something else?
Excellent point, and that is exactly where I'm going because Harvard and Stanford did some research on what they call cognitive upload, which is um, how you think before you speak. And they have
Mhm.
found that when people use AI, they do doubt themselves. They can't answer questions
Mm.
off the top of their head. They ramble more. They have more filler words because they doubt themselves now. And that's why more people are using notes when they speak in uh, in meetings and things like that. AI definitely has a place, as Dee Dee can confirm. Um, McKinsey and Company did a research study that showed that in communication heavy tasks, AI saved between 20 and 40% of your time. So it's got a place, but it doesn't, it's not human and it doesn't replace humanity.
Mm.
And it needs to, it doesn't need to. So it's really um, interesting how a tool that can be so positive can also be so detrimental. Yes, Dee Dee.
The tool is very positive and very powerful, but it's the implementation and the choice of style of implementation. When ROI means more than dignity, means more than human. It's
Ability.
yeah,
Mhm.
When it means more than ability.
Yeah, it's implementation things that we were going through with a huge university yesterday.
You
Yes. I'm sorry, Vicky, go ahead.
Y Well, what I wanted to say is, I think this is such an important conversation because this morning, Jennifer Seven put an article in about how we're going back to some basics in our conversations, how websites are coming back, the individual ones that have your conversation that are talking about this. And so, what's interesting to me is that communications, it's like AI is the new toy in the world. Let's play with the new toy. Everybody's excited about the new toy. And the
Mhm.
internet was the new toy. But we always come back to the fundamentals of what it means to be human, what it means to be creative, what it means to communicate. And I find the fundamentals should never be outsourced to anything because what you said earlier, and I want to paraphrase it because I can't quote it exactly, but you just talked about how people can't answer questions in an audience because they're more worried about an outline. It's like you don't trust the message coming through you. You don't trust you. And what you're learning is to distrust yourself and outsource it to something else, hoping that fixes it. And I'm still one of those people. When I talk, I can have bullet points, but I know my subject so well that I don't want it to outsource it. I want them to feel me. And if we're inauthentic, I think humanism is the thing that people are going to look for. And I'm wondering, like in the public speaking area, there has got to be, hi, Nisha, there's got to be some things that are like rules or maybe just norms of the speaking industry where you want the person speaking to speak as authentically as they can. Because I think I'm more worried about somebody's bullshit detector or BS detector going off in conversation. If they're talking to me and mine goes off, I'm starting to not believe them.
Mhm.
And I think if you're over rehearsed by something that isn't you with AI, are there norms of speaking where these are things that help you connect with your audience better? Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I think so. Um, and that's the problem because people are losing the basics of communication and of speaking on stage or speaking on a podcast because they've got their notes, they've got their outline, and the BS detector can go off because trust is built when you are present in a conversation. And if you're trying to remember either because you're counting on AI and the script it gave you this morning, or
Mhm.
because you're not used to answering questions anymore, because you do so much online, you have AI write your email for you and you send it out. So you're not thinking in real time anymore. You don't have you're concentrating so much that you don't have those micro expressions. And those are the things that build trust. And trust and authenticity are inherently human,
Yeah.
not machine.
And I think that what you said earlier about how the AI isn't reading the room, that's where authenticity comes in. Because
Mhm.
it's like if you're not reading the room while you're speaking, or if you're not present, what you call it, then you're not picking up the cues of what's happening in the moment. You're
Mhm.
picking up nothing actually.
Mhm.
You're literally just worried about you. It's almost narcissistic to speak that way.
Yeah, you're wrapped up in yourself so much that you don't see
Mhm.
others. Dee Dee.
Yeah, When you're talking about human communication and talking about the AI imitating human communication, um, in the lost section, we have multiple inflection. Inflection is an important part of our communication, and
Yes.
it's a very familiar part. Also, stress emphasis, pauses, as you said, facial expression, and environment.
Hmm.
If someone looks scared, you might not present the subject so fast. You might talk lower because you're scared they're going to be intimidated. You're trying to make a secure ground. None of that AI can do. But the one thing that they have done is train AI to give inflection tones and so on that are automatic, system kicks in. So everything's okay. They give them the tone of authority, of passiveness, of, and if you go in, you can hear that same thing. If you go through the different voices for AI on chat, you
Hmm.
hear that same inflection, same tone, same speed, same this. And it's set to bring out the automatic, like mommy security system in your brain. So you
Hmm.
really aren't listening either. It's made to make you not listen or not hold it there.
Wow.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a brilliant assessment. It is,
That's a good insight.
it's amazing how AI is built and why we trust it, why we come to trust it, because it may write an email and you'll say, "Ooh, that was better than mine." I will write an article and then I'll send it through AI. And when it comes out, I usually say, "Ooh, that's better." So uh, when Lisa was having her issue, um, she and I sat down and we went through her chat, and this machine saw what she wrote, and based upon her apparent panic in the words that she used, it kept saying things like, "Lisa, take a deep breath." So it was human in that it could see that she was tense, and it kept telling her to take a deep breath. It's not as bad as it looks. So people become more and more familiar with their AI and they trust it. So,
Over trusting themselves.
exactly. And that's what happens. And also, your communication skills are a muscle, it's muscle memory. And when you aren't using it yourself to think things through, to prepare a response to somebody when they're talking to you, you don't use that muscle. And what happens when a muscle isn't used? It gets weak. So then you don't get so great at things. But then it becomes a vicious circle because, well, boy, I really messed up that conversation. I should have had AI tell me what I'm supposed to say. And then they depended on it again for notes next time. It's a
Wow.
so Vicky.
It's weird because what you just said, I realize we're letting go of our sovereignty in order to use AI. And one of the most interesting things that you dealt with is I think in public speaking, one of the things you have to do is get used to being uncomfortable. So it's not lost on me when you've lost an audience. Like if you're talking and you've lost an audience. And since I'm on 4 times a week and talking all the time, or if I'm on stage and I've lost an audience, I can feel it in my body, but I'm not afraid of it. I don't inner critic myself. I start asking questions.
Mhm.
And what I realize is we are becoming robotic using this. We're not able to stand with an uncomfortable feeling. We think that feeling uncomfortable is wrong, not that it's information.
Mm-hmm.
We think something's bad or wrong, and we start beating ourselves up, blah, blah, blah. We don't learn speakers who are professional learn that this is information. It's not wrong, bad, good, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So even yesterday, when I got done with whatever coffee call, Robin was like, "You were all over the place." And I was like, "Okay, that's information. It's not a reflection on my skill set at all." And what I see happening without English as a second language, live human coaching,
Mm-hmm.
you will not be able to trust yourself. You will not be able to speak well. You have to have that intermediary piece of you so that you are not losing yourself. And I realize don't that we are with all these apps, they're made to help us, but really they're surrendering our critical thinking. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if right now you are a new speaker, like let's say you're learning English as a second language, or you're learning to become a better speaker so that you're doing it as a profession. Shouldn't you just in the beginning drop the AI and first get to trust yourself? I mean, this is what human coaching is about versus app coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the difference. I mean, some things you can outsource, right? Some things you can't.
Well, and talking about English as a second language is huge because research shows that there are more ESL speakers who are using AI for things like emails and
Yeah.
letters and memos, that kind of thing. Um, and that's great because they don't have to worry about translating. Did they use the right tense? Is my grammar right? The problem with that is it's even more dangerous for them to count on AI for those types of communications because they need the repetition of thinking for themselves as they're talking. And it's very difficult, I would believe, for AI, as you said, Vic, to help teach someone because it's not nuanced.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what helping someone with not just English as a second language, but help someone improve their communications overall. It's the nuances that make the communication stronger. And that is what one of the things AI does not bring to the table. Dee Dee,
Yeah.
before I leave you, I'm going to say, hi, Nisha. I'm glad you're here today. Dee Dee, you had your hand raised, and excuse me while I take a sip.
No, please. It's coffee hour. Hello, Nisha. Nice to hear you or see you here. Um, in the conversation here that we're talking about, when we have to look at the model of LLM, large language model, that's
Mhm.
used, and all the large language models, even Dominion and Google and so on, are made for industrial management to keep people and other ones doubting themselves. There are one of the things I do when I'm writing on my AI is I outline what I'm going to write about. So I
Mhm.
say, listen, I'm talking about sovereignty in AI. What happens when you need mercy or this doesn't work? And then I outline what I want to do, and then I let it make something. And I go through, no, this is too soft spoken. We need to be direct here. We need to say the ugly truth.
Mhm.
And people are scared of you for this reason. And it kind of comes back with, oh, you're right. Okay, let's incorporate that. And then I go back and through and I say, okay, let's see how many things, how many statistics show which kind of large language models are working best for communication skills. The large language models were created with no people input, no everyday people input. It was made by businesses, industry for management. And
Interesting.
now the
Dee Dee, I'm
management,
gonna interrupt you for a second. Tell me what a large language model is. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
Okay. An LLM is the abbreviation for a large language model. And what a large language model is that they download all the language on all the libraries and it stores it and it makes an algorithm for how the sentence is structured. And then it makes predictions on what comes in afterwards. So we are so in our language and speaking methods, we are so consistent that there are patterns. And the large language model recognizes these patterns and then predicts what the next word would be. And
Mhm.
they're within 98% accuracy. And they will give multiple. So it's not really understanding language. It's an algorithm. It's a mathematical algorithm that predicts.
And I
Interesting.
think what's important here is that in human history, what we have learned is vocabulary.
Mhm,
And when we learn language models, we can dumb it down. So when I write a book, when I hit the editor and I take my book and I put it in my I can tell it what age I want this to be written for. The
Mhm.
average age is between 8 and 14 is like genius level reading levels. So what happens is everything gets dumbed down. And instead of saying, I abhor this, we say, I'm a hater. The language models are dumbing people down.
mhm,
The learning to speak by online app is not how the brain will it's like if you atrophy, if you have a bad vocabulary,
mhm,
right now having a bad vocabulary is being well spoken and talking over their heads. So
mhm,
what happens when we do this, if we get in there, we have to actually bring it down some so that we're talking at their level. And if when we were in high school, vocabulary and advanced vocabulary were classes that we took that
mhm,
helped us speak differently, and it showcased your level of intelligence and expertise where it doesn't now.
mhm,
And this is so important, the conversation we're having, because it is it's almost a trap. It's a trap right now.
mhm. It is. It is, Dee Dee.
I wanted to add on to what I was saying about not only the large language model and the manipulation of communication to not only make people feel unconfident, but also to kind of manipulate their moods by using tones and so on. But as of presently, when we're using um, AI for management, the management system has changed. And as Robin was talking about you being over here, well, at the speed a computer runs, and they're able to handle multiple tasks at the same time by sending a row of implementations. It thinks radiating out. We think linear. And so the fact is now management has to radiate out. As Vicky says, they have to look discombobulated because they've got multiple fields listening to them simultaneously, and they have to address each one like this. So you
Mhm.
look like you're nuts because you're operating like a computer would, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, you lose your humanness.
Exactly. And that's the big thing. In 2026, the people the professionals who are present, who can read the room, and who can put nuance in their communications, those are the winners. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, there are less and less of them because they're using more and more AI. the people who are in business are using AI a lot. Now, I just want to try a little exercise here. I wrote a paragraph and then I put it in AI so
Interesting.
that it could, how it would say it. I didn't
Mhm.
ask it to prove it. I asked it, how would you say this paragraph? So I'm going to give you two paragraphs and ask you to tell me which one is AI.
Okay.
This project matters because it solves a real problem that is costing us time and money. Right now,
AI,
I'm sorry,
That's
AI.
AI.
It's that easy to tell.
what did you say, Didi?
It's that easy to tell. The whole start is like
The
it's
sentence is
like
this long.
The whole thing was AI.
Yes.
it was so easy to tell. Sorry for cutting you off.
No, that's fine because
It was
my
very
sentence was half of that.
oh,
And that's the
what was
thing.
your sentence,
Wait,
Dee
I
Dee?
wanna hear your sentence.
My sentence was our project is solving a problem that's costing us time and money. We're missing deadlines due to poor communication. If we standardize our process, we can improve accountability and expedite delivery.
Great.
Whereas,
Now read the AI without being interrupted by us.
okay, so the second sentence for them is right now, teams are duplicating work and missing deadlines due to poor communication. By creating a standardized process, we reduce confusion, improve accountability, and speed up delivery. That means better results for clients and higher profitability for us. So, and it's interesting because when I, if I'm writing an article, I'll write it, I'll send it through my AI just to clean it up, make sure that, and see what it has to add. Um, but then obviously I edit it again when I put it in Substack. And I find that I am deleting words. When the sentence is this long, it screams AI. So and that's why you'll see a lot of people on Substack, a lot of articles that say, I can tell when somebody's using AI. I don't think it's right that people use AI in their articles. Um, here's how not to look like it's AI in your Substack. And it's the things that Vicky's told us about before,
Yeah.
the M dashes
Mhm.
and, uh, certain words.
Yeah,
Yesterday, I
and
told
bullet points
AI,
everywhere.
yeah, my AI uses the word friction a lot, and it talks about when you're having if I'm having communication with you, um, you'll start to feel the friction. The listener will start to hear the friction if they're feeling uncomfortable with what I'm saying. Well, that's not what friction means to me. So I finally told it yesterday, "Don't ever say the word friction again." So so it said, "I have updated your content machine."
There are this is one of the parts of my uh curriculum. And in the first one, I'm talking about ethical AI use. And one of the things is what to do to stop certain things like that. And and that's where you have to take your writing that you have. When you upload it, make sure they save it, and then you say, put it in my voice.
Mhm.
Now it has to start so you put it in my voice, follow my business advisor, and put it in my voice based upon my writings. And so, and then it
Yeah,
can't
it
do
does
that.
that in the advisor. The prompt is already got the tone and the brand of you so
Mhm.
that you can do it, but I still don't think that it replaces the humanness of you, essentially. It can get better, and it probably gets better over time, but I still think, like, the post you wrote today, Dee Dee, blew my mind, and it had so much of you in it
Mhm.
in the way that it it blew my mind. I actually read a portion out to Robin, but that
Mhm.
piece that's you and your flavor, that's the only thing you have. There are there it's like I tell everybody, there's no new meat. No new meat. We're not
Mhm.
coming out there's red meat, white meat, and, bacon. But when we take a look at red meat or white meat, the only difference is how you flavor your meat. So if it's red meat and you barbecue it or you saute it or whatever you do, your flavor is the selling point of what you're doing. Because sometimes you want a hamburger, sometimes you want a steak, but it's still red meat. And
Mhm.
that's the beauty of your writing today. When you were talking about, when I read it, I could feel my body get flushed and everything else. And I think communication, the point of communication and connection, whether you're writing, but especially when you're talking, is to be able to create a moment, an experience with someone, whether it's a sales moment, a kind moment, an angry moment, whatever that is. And when you wrote today and you were talking about the frustration of being in that loop that you here's my problem and it doesn't have anything to do, and I felt myself reading it getting hot. That's what communications is all about, whether it's English as a second language or English as your primary language. And that what no matter what, I do not believe that AI can create your flavor. AI is an
It can't.
LLM.
It cannot. It cannot. It out cannot. As I said, it's an algorithm.
Mhm.
Flavor comes with a mixture. It is not a singularity.
And I
Algorithms are
believe that
singularities, and they're rigid.
I
And
believe
it's
that
not. It's an incredible algorithm. We talk about Fibonacci sequence. We talk about the different of nature and how nature can go from these different rhythms to mesh with one another. But in this case, that stays the same. It doesn't oscillate different, and it doesn't waver. And it and this is the hard thing for people to grasp about AI. It is not communicating with you. It is
that's true,
running an
but
algorithm.
what we're talking about, to me, fundamental communications, one of
Right.
the most important key ingredients that all communication has is
Mhm.
your flavor. And you
Mhm.
know how you get a vibe about somebody and you say, "This person's a hoot," or "This person is sad, really sad all the time," or "This person is just angry no matter what." It's kinda their vibe. And
Yeah.
when we communicate, that's the flavor that we share with someone that creates the moment or the connection.
Mhm.
And I don't think that can be replaced at all. And I think it's what I got from today, Karen, that I think is so important is that it is taking away from younger people. I don't know about older people because 'cause we're still in that boomer era where they talk how they talk. They're not gonna go to AI and try to learn how to talk. And
Mhm.
English is a second language. When they go to use an app or they go to use something else other than a human being, you don't want to lose the flavor of you inside your communications, because when you go up against a job and you're an applicant, they don't give a crap what AI wrote for you. They're going to give a crap about the flavor of you. Do you fit our culture? Do
Mhm.
you fit our community and how we speak? Do you fit in? Do you belong here? And that cannot come through languaging that has been preempted or pre-thought about. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yes, and the point that you just made about job applicants, I read an article about the fact that so many younger people are having AI write their resumes.
Yeah.
and so they show up with their CV and they hand it, they mail it in, and the interviewer has it in front of them. Well, now you have a well articulated resume, and you
Yeah.
sit in front of them and you can't speak.
Yeah.
You can't answer questions on the fly.
Have
And
you do you know Stephen Bartlett, the
I do not.
Diary of a CEO? He's
Yes.
got a really famous podcast, and he just did a podcast on how he, um, let's see, what's the word? How he goes through he says about 6,000 resumes a month. And he looks at all of them, and the first thing he does, it's like he can tell what's AI right now, and the second there's an AI piece, he just shoves them aside. And the last person he hired got the job, and the job was a relationship officer, the manager of happiness or something, and she did not send in a resume. She found a backdoor way and sent in a video so that he could see her. That part's gonna happen. There's gonna be a software that's gonna come up, or an app where your resume is gonna come in and be scanned. Is it AI? Off it goes, it's out. And
Mhm.
they're gonna be looking for authenticity and real, and what's your flavor of meat, and do you fit into our culture? That's what I think is gonna happen.
And I'm not surprised that he throws away the AI generated resumes,
Mhm.
especially when you get that many. If somebody is being, and I don't want to say, but yeah, lazy. I mean, I use AI, and it would obviously take more work. And that statistic that I think I gave you, um, yes, I did, where McKinsey and Company said that 20 to 40% more productivity
Yeah.
in a communications heavy job. So it's got a place,
Yeah,
but
it has to. You have to become good at it.
it makes a difference in your spoken communication. And that's the point of today's call, that you become dependent on it. You stop thinking for yourself. You don't know how to answer questions under pressure. You don't organize your thoughts because AI has organized your written thoughts for you. And that's where the difference comes in where it is a bad thing for spoken communication. But it really makes the people who maintain good communication skills, it makes them stand
Mhm.
out a lot. And so that makes a difference for you. And that's your opportunity there. Dee Dee, did you have something else you wanted to say?
Um, I did, but I can wait till you're done. I don't know if you're done by asking that.
No,
I
please
want
go
you to
ahead.
finish your
No,
train of
please go
thought.
ahead.
Okay. If we look at in the 1900s, early 1900s, people would meet on Sunday when there wasn't so much media, and they would read out loud. And the inflection of somebody, or while you were doing something, someone would read out loud, or they'd do a play, and so on, where public speaking was much more involved in the community and in society itself. And you were expected to embarrass yourself in front of other people and read that. You know, now we've gotten further with media and so on. The communication skills of people like my nephew's age is, what do they call them? They're not Xers. There's millennials and the generation after that. I mean, they use acronyms. He cannot write a whole sentence
Mhm.
because he doesn't use communication properly.
Mhm.
And I mean, I noticed that with many other places with acronyms. We're not speaking politely or correctly or concisely. We're using WTF. Oh yeah, LOL. Yeah, man, that's so cool. That's bad. We're even using wrongs in inverted sections.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how they're going to learn to speak. I feel like there's no hope.
I know,
Well,
I remember when LOL was lots of love.
I
Yeah,
know.
I
I
know.
know. A quick side note that's totally irrelevant, but when you said lots of love, my dad is tech savvy to some degree when it comes to texting, and he dictates his texts, and he's hot stuff. Well, he he saw LOL a lot, and the last thing he remembered was lots of love.
Mhm.
So, I'm sorry that your husband died, LOL. I'm sorry to hear that you're so sick, LOL. And it's like, oh, daddy. But to your point, Dee Dee, that's true with text. So, I mean, and putting AI into the whole digital realm, it is changing the way younger people are communicating. I know a month or so ago, the two of you were talking about your
Mm,
nephew and, Gen
right.
X and Gen Z, or millennials and Gen Z. And they thought you talked so slowly, when in reality, you're normal.
Yeah.
So the it's not teaching them how to communicate in the spoken language the way that it should be.
And I
So,
mean, what is industry to do but to use AI if the kids aren't taught how to communicate properly?
mhm,
Not only that, if they don't learn how to communicate properly, they will not have critical thinking because they won't trust themselves to think differently. They'll
mhm,
think in a way that is belonging.
exactly. Critical thinking is so important in communication. You need to be able to think under pressure. You need to be able to have a message that's clearly structured. And you can't do that if you don't have critical thinking. You blather, and
Yeah.
you over explain,
Mhm.
and you include filler words because you don't remember what you were talking about.
Mhm.
So digital, and AI in particular, is making a difference in our spoken language.
Yeah.
And it really it is stealing the spoken language from too many people. And when you have college kids who are having AI write their essays for them, um, they're learning early not to think. So you end up with your nephew who talks in acronyms.
Mhm.
Um, the bottom line is that, and I said it earlier, the professional in 2026 that's going to win is the one who can think under pressure in a room, who reads the room,
Yes.
who gets the nuances, and understands what's next in a conversation, particularly what they are saying, as opposed to not having thought through what they're going to discuss. So they get partway into it and they blather. And
Mhm.
that's where, going back to the asking questions to make sure that you're on the same page, AI doesn't do that. Having a um, your point, you support your point, you end the conversation, and then you be quiet. AI doesn't do that. So those are the things that are so critically important. Vicki, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I do. I really wanna say this conversation was so powerful because one of the things communication skills, real communication skills lets you do is have autonomy. And that autonomy is going to be the thing that sticks out at the job interview, at your next promotion. Not that you're not that you're a group thinker or a contrarian thinker. It's that you're a critical thinker. It's that you're observant and you're present. And if you continue to outsource that to something else and you let that atrophy in yourself, you will lose the ability to compete in a ever shrinking job market, to stand out, to get attention, to get that next promotion, or to win that client. Winning that client is equally as important.
Exactly. And that's what good communication will give you. It will
That's
give
right.
you more money, more opportunities, deeper relationships. And we're losing that with digital overall and AI in particular. Hello, Anna. Dee Dee, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I wanted to point out that I had joined a couple of these societies that deal with this, and they're very university and intellectual top heavy. But they're extremely interesting conversations about language, about credentials, about what's going to be needed for the business world in the coming 2026 and so on. And I wanted to point out that in the last 2 years in AI, there has been so much money put in by industry that they're actually not having wins, and their net profit is down dramatically, especially major industrial complexes that control. They need to have a win on AI. And the implementation is getting cost effective, inefficient is the word I wanted. And this is getting to be a problem because it's pushing um, income versus efficiency and effectiveness. And so I'm a little bit concerned about that. But I think what intellectuals and educationals, CDU, education and curriculum, is looking at is very different than what businesses are looking at. And I am worried that education is going to fall behind because they're too slow and because the needs are not met.
That's interesting. That's
Yes.
interesting.
So if you guys would take a look, I put on some of those articles I wrote, some of these, and there's one very interesting about the communication being used.
Very,
And I
I
think it
haven't
was
seen
the
that one.
CDI. No, it's a society that's actually evaluating and talking about how AI should be structured, and it's on the list, and it's CDIC, I think, or something. I'm sorry, I got that. I'm not being accurate with that. I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, but I'd be curious because of the communication element on that.
I'll grab onto it, grab the link, and send it to you.
Thank you.
And because I think it would be very interesting for you to be involved with that because you have such a good communication skills.
Well, thank you very much. Well, ladies, we are at the top of the hour. Anna, I'm glad you dropped in. Nisha, as always, we appreciate you being here. Vicki, Dee Dee, thank you. Your input is so powerful. I really enjoy the discussions that we have on our Wednesday calls. So I'm going to stop recording